Interested in gym retention strategies? Stay tuned. When it comes to gym or boutique retention strategies, you might be thinking, that's not for me. Or maybe you are thinking, this might help me elevate my business. This is where we really jump into topics that we haven't seen yet on the KIPS podcast. In just a second, I'm going to be bringing on the owner of the FBA, the Fitness Business Association, Josh Leve, and he's going to be talking about some of his best tips, advice from years of being a GM in the greater Chicago area and now running the FBA. We're going to get to the episode with Josh in just a bit, but there's something that we touch on that I want to expand on. Now, in the episode, we talk about having an outward professional appearance, being quote unquote on at all times because you never know who is watching. Now, something that was mentioned to me very early on in my career, probably 2009, was having this separation between your work life, so in the gym, when you're working with clients, and also a at-home life, and keeping them separate. Now, back in 2009, when clients were purchasing memberships, personal training in abundance, yeah, that was probably easier, but also think about it. It takes time to get to that stage. You cannot go into this career thinking that you're going to automatically keep clients away and have all these limitations between when you're in contact with them. If you can, fantastic, great. Keep doing it. You're probably doing something right. But for the majority of trainers, fitness professionals, there is a little bit of a mix in there because it takes time to build up. Think about it, 2025, when potential members and even gym members have access to all this different information at their fingertips. Yes, they're going to want to know more about their instructors or people that they're investing their money into. So have some limitations if you feel like you need to, but also keep in mind that you can be building your email list, having different services that you're keeping them engaged and wanting to keep them coming back to you. Let's now get to the episode with Josh. Make sure you drop a comment on something you learned or maybe something you want to add to this to help any fit pro that's listening in and wants to work on their retention strategies. Josh, can you set the stage? How did you get into the fitness industry? Where did you start? What you're working on now? What you have coming in the future?
Oh man, Tyler, how much time do we have, right? So I have kind of grown up in the fitness industry. My grandfather started the National Core Clubs Association. That was kind of the first fitness association for racquetball clubs and tennis clubs way back in like the 70s and 80s. Then my father came along, Chuck Leve, and he created with John McCarthy a little known organization called IHRSA, which is now the Health and Fitness Association. And back in the 80s, John McCarthy, who was the first executive director, went to my dad, who was the first IHRSA employee. And the two of them, McCarthy said to my dad, he says, "Hey, I just got back from this trade show thing. Do you know anything about that? Can you build me one?" And he said, "Okay, sure." And that was the beginnings of the IHRSA trade show. So my dad ran the IHRSA trade show and built it to what it is now for about 30 years. And I remember growing up working behind the scenes at IHRSA shows on my spring breaks and stuff like that. Kids were going to Cancun and I was there working, behind the scenes of an IHRSA show and understanding the inner workings of it. And so when I graduated from the University of Kansas, I spent some time working in the health and fitness industry in gyms. I was a GM. I worked for studios, just consulting with them. And then I realized, and this was back, 2011, maybe, that there was this big boom of trainers and coaches and instructors starting their own studios. And so I went to my dad and I was like, I've got this idea for a new association. And now I've never gotten my training certification. I've always been on the business side of the fitness industry, understanding how clubs work and managing people and growing them. And I said, I think there's an opportunity for an IHRSA type organization for fitness studios because they were popping up everywhere. And so we created the Association of Fitness Studios and we ran that. I was the CEO. I had a business partner at the time. I bought him out. Sometimes when you have a partner, people don't see eye to eye. Bought him out, hired my dad, who at the time had stopped working at IHRSA and was just a consultant in the industry, and had him run our sponsorship division with the AFS for many years. He passed away back in 2021, but we kind of, during the pandemic, decided to rebrand the company away from AFS to the FBA because we were finding that there was so much confusion in the Association of Fitness Studios, as is, I'm a gym, should I join the Association of Fitness Studios? Or I'm a personal trainer who's thinking about starting their own business, should I join the Association of Fitness Studios? So there's all this confusion. And so we said, let's take a step back and look at the education that we're providing into the industry. And it really was focused on the business side, but you didn't necessarily need to have a brick and mortar location. Yeah. You know, it was talking about really those in-between skills, in-between training session skills that every trainer, instructor, coach needs. You know, how to sell your services, how to find new clients, how to communicate with clients, all the things that might get touched on in your traditional fitness certifications, but are never really kind of honed when you go from getting your certification to going to work in a health club or a gym or a studio. There are so many other skills you need to be successful. And so that was the birth of the Fitness Business Association. We had an in-person conference that we used to do. The pandemic hit. We turned our in-person conference to a virtual fitness conference. Took off because we leveraged our marketing partners. All the certifying organizations are our partners to help market the event, and grew it to where we get thousands of attendees at every one that we do. We do 3 of them a year. And it's taken off from that perspective. So it's been exciting.
Awesome. There is a quick question. I can't say quick because it might be long-winded, but I think it's great to kind of give some insight into actually what IHRSA is, or HFI. I still call it IHRSA as well. But we are going to be talking about gym retention throughout this podcast. But I think for listeners that are potentially new to the fitness industry or have never even heard of HFA, I think it's great just to throw out what their organization is, what they do, because that is a pretty, I don't want to say important, but it's a organization that's going to be around while you're working in this industry. So just to know the terms and who they are, can you give some insight into that?
Sure. So before they were HFA, IHRSA was the International Health Racket and Sports Club Association. And they, just like they do now when they rebranded to the Health and Fitness Association, they're very focused on providing business education, market research for scale clubs. And also they have, you know, education for studios and stuff like that. But they're also very big in the advocacy part of the fitness industry, pushing to ensure that fitness professionals get a lot of the benefits when it comes to health and wellness, and pushing things in Washington, D.C., laws to be passed that protect personal trainers, that protect our interests, that provide these benefits that we can use for kind of the greater good for our clients and things like that. So very heavily involved in the advocacy side of things, market research, education. Of course, they have a massive trade show as well that provides the opportunity to go and get an education in person. They do it once a year and it moves around. San Diego is one of their hubs. San Francisco, they used to be in. Vegas, they used to be in. Orlando. And that's kind of like the gist of what they do. And it's just a great organization because they are doing everything they can to fight for the rights of the fitness industry. And nobody else is really putting in the time, the energy, and the money on the advocacy side of things. So if those of you aren't familiar with them, I highly recommend checking them out. I'm not sure the website now. It might just be hfa.org, but it's just the Health and Fitness Association, and they used to be IHRSA.
Great. Now let's jump into the meat and potatoes of gym retention. And I'm going to start with one that has to do with technology. When I used to consult for gyms, small boutiques, and some gym chains, it used to be around technology. And I get it. A lot of gym owners or people that are running gyms, they just don't have time for social media. They don't have time to stay up with it. Apps change, the algorithms change, platforms change. How do you see right now in 2025, gyms using technology, social media to keep members engaged, attract new members? What are some of those things that you're seeing?
So that's a loaded question, right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially in today's day and age where, you know, I could say one word or two words, artificial intelligence, right? I mean, with where things are going and how quickly technology is evolving. Of course, artificial intelligence, we won't jump into that. Everybody knows ChatGPT and is
Mm-hmm.
proud, hopefully, utilizing it as an amazing tool. Technology from the AI perspective, I look at as incredibly exciting and incredibly terrifying all at the same time. But I like to err on the side of incredibly exciting because of all the
Yeah.
things you can do with it. But when it comes to technology, it's no longer optional, right? It's the connective tissue of any gym or any studio or any health club's community.
Mm-hmm.
And look at it, you could break it down into three categories: apps, which help personalize the experience, whether it's the gym app or if it's another third-party app, by allowing members to book classes or track workouts and really receive tailored challenges or reminders to come into a class, or that your billing is past due, or that you've got a session coming up.
Yeah.
So that's a major component to it. Integrated leaderboards and progress tracking for a sense of completion and accountability is a huge thing, and when you talk social media, I like to say social media is like your digital lobby, right? It builds culture by showcasing member milestones, behind the scenes staff moments. That accountability is a big component, and the authenticity that it provides is something that people crave. Perfect example. So we were doing our Succeed virtual conference a couple years ago. I think it was back in 2022, and I was doing a live keynote. And I had a green screen behind me, a different house. This is not a green screen. And I remember I was positioning my computer stand because I saw a little part of the green screen that just wasn't covered, so you could kind of see the back. And I was positioning it ever so slightly as the keynoter was going, not realizing how much of my desk space I did not have. And literally during the live keynote, my entire computer stand with the computer falls off. And it looks like, when you play it back, it looks like I fall down the stairs.
Huh.
And I go, holy, blank, I won't swear on your podcast, but, and I go, oh my gosh, quickly put it back up, open up my computer, go back. Thank goodness the keynoter was just a rock star and just goes, whoa, okay, we're just going to continue with the question that Josh had asked me during the Q&A. And so, and we use that clip. We literally use it in our marketing of our virtual conferences to this day. Like, hey, look at our founder and CEO. Looks like he fell down the stairs for how excited he was, to welcome you to our Succeed virtual conference. So that authenticity from a social media perspective is so key, but you can use it for so many different things. Stories and live streams can make your brand feel human and accessible. There's a variety of different techniques that you can use for social media: before and after pictures, social events that are going on, letting people see behind the scenes and all those things. And then the third one, when it comes to technology, aside from AI, is push notifications, reminders of member streaks or celebrating progress, re-engaging with those that are at risk of dropping off when it comes to the retention side of things. When used strategically, not spammy, they increase retention, But there's so many things, and this is technology only because you use your phone to do it. But one of the best retention strategies is something I can't take credit for. This is something that a speaker of ours presented during one of their sessions. They call it 5 minutes of kindness. And I just wanted to share this with your audience because I think it's essential, and it talks about technology, but also the importance of human connection. Is at the end of every single day, no matter if he has 3 clients, 5 clients, 8 clients, 9 clients, every single day he gets on his computer or his phone and he text messages every single client that he had that day, and just sends him a quick note, 1 or 2 sentences like, hey, Tyler, great session today. I was so impressed with the progress that you've made. You holding that plank today for 90 seconds was your PR. You've never been able to hold it more than 60 seconds. It shows the progress that you're making. Congrats. Can't wait to see you back here next Tuesday or something like that. Takes 30 seconds to send off one text message like that. And he does that for every single one of his clients every single day. And it makes a huge difference. So yes, technology is no longer optional, but the key is to make sure it works for your members, to really 3 things. So use technology to make your members feel seen, celebrated, and supported. not sold to. And that's going to make a huge difference when it comes to member retention.
A quick break in this video. If you are needing CEUs, make sure that you head to the link that's in the description where you can find all our online courses that have pre-approvals with NASM, IHRSA, ACE, AFA, NCSF, and with NESTA. We of course offer free content on our YouTube channel, but if you're needing professional ed, with some of them even having the full amount to recertify, make sure you head to that link. And now let's get back to the video. I like it. I want to dive a little bit deeper into this because my brain started rolling about these ideas and how social media is evolving, but also kind of like where to start. One of the gym chains that we work with at KIPS in Central California is Body Exchange, and they've just been very helpful with KIPS through the years with courses and feedback, all that kind of stuff, one of the owners. And they had provided some footage for me to utilize in a course that we're developing. And I noticed that a lot of it was vertical format. And I bring that up because I know that they have started to tailor their content that they're putting out for certain platforms like TikTok and a certain audience, a more younger audience, because that's who is signing up for their gym. Where do you recommend gym owners start for something like this? They're thinking, well, is TikTok valuable for me? And they're trying to figure out what kind of content should I be filming? Where should they start?
It's a loaded question too. And there's so many different social platforms and you can get lost in trying to identify which one should I do. Or I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on whatever new one is coming out. And I'm in my mid 40s now. So I feel like, oh my gosh, there's like new social media, popping up all the time. And as a team internally, we're looking at it saying like, which one should we be on? And I think it really comes down to identifying who is your target market, right? I mean, it sounds boring, but it really is. And you talk to any expert out there, they'll tell you just to focus on one platform or two platforms at most. But it has to be the platform for which your members or your potential members are going to be. So to your example, if they are finding a younger demographic is starting to join their gym, well, yeah, TikTok makes a lot of sense because it's probably not Facebook, right? As people now believe Facebook is a little bit more for the older generations. And I feel like everybody's on Instagram. So that's just one of the ones that is just, built in, like you have to be on Instagram. But TikTok would be ideal for them, and trying to identify, well, this is where my market is going to be. So this is where I have to market myself. And when it comes to what to market, that just takes a SWOT analysis to identify really where your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats are coming from, and identify what content is working. I highly recommend leveraging AI for doing all this and just identifying, who your target market is, how can you capitalize on this, and just letting it run and seeing what the information is that you get back. But yeah, for a gym owner like that, it makes total sense to be on TikTok. For other organizations that, for example, the gentleman I was mentioning before, his studio is for the older demographics. You can call them active agers, baby boomers, 55 plus. So he's not going to be on TikTok, right? He's going to be probably on Facebook and Instagram, things like that. So it very much depends on who your target market is and then kind of honing in on the content that they're consuming and then creating that.
Yeah, agree a lot. I like this conversation about tailoring the approach, tailoring it to your audience with experience. Now, I feel like that is a key word, a hot word to use these days for when somebody is doing really anything. So relating it to a gym now and creating an experience, whether it is a new member or an existing member, how can gyms use or tailor an experience for somebody that is just signing up, that they sign in and they're like, wow, this is an experience I haven't really gone through, whether they are a middle tier or a high-end gym. What are some things that you recommend gym owners start to do when they're looking at that process of when someone steps foot in the door and meeting someone for the first time? What are some of those key items that you recommend?
So I like to believe that when it comes to a member experience, that is king, because there are so many different options when it comes to working out and your fitness that more so now than there have ever been. There are apps, there's YouTube, there's in-person experiences, there are virtual experiences. So when somebody's made the decision just to walk into your facility and is thinking about signing up, you need to create the most memorable experience from the moment that person walks in. And it sounds like, oh yeah, of course, I know that. But there's a difference between the gym owner, or the studio owner, or the health club owner that understands that and the ones that are actually doing it. And so because of the amount of competition, what makes the studio, we'll just use studios, for example, what makes the studio across the street better than the one on the other side of the street? You know, they're both personal training studios. They both have maybe classes. They both have personal training. But why would I join this one over that one? And it could be the experience. It could be the fact that they've got a much better, somebody walks into that studio and the person at the front desk isn't on their phone, that they make them feel like family. I used to use the term the cheers effect was the reason why studios were popping up all over the place when we started the AFS, is because they make you feel like you're part of the family. Everybody knows your name, you know, and there's this community aspect and this camaraderie that you don't get at a big box health club. You feel like you're another number. And so from the moment somebody walks in, personalization really starts and ends with connection. And so you can create that, you know, the experiences when they walk in. Do you have a water bottle for them? When I used to run clubs on Valentine's Day, we used to give out flowers to all the women that came in just as a nice little thank you. You know, St. Patrick's Day, we would do secret lockers where we would decorate a locker and, you know, St. Patrick's Day and say, congrats, you're a winner. Bring this note up to the front desk and you win this, you know, basket full of St. Patrick's Day prizes, like little things like that throughout the course of the year. But when it comes to the personalization side, you can make the experience very personalized and customized from the beginning. And you can collect intel from intake forms, wearables, app behavior, check-in patterns to segment your members by goals, preferences, participation level. You can use all this data now through apps and AI to deliver goal-specific programming. You know, for example, muscle gain or weight loss or recovery, personalized class or training recommendations and milestone recommendations, remembering birthdays of not only your members or your clients, but of their family members, so that they get a card, their son or daughter gets a card in the mail from the trainer. Say, hey, you know, John, Sally, Sienna, whatever, you know, this is Dad's personal trainer. Just want to wish you a happy birthday. Here's a $5 card to Amazon, something like that, right? You know, all those little moments are huge when it comes back to the member experience. It doesn't end there. Member feedback isn't just useful, it's essential. Polls, surveys, in-person conversations help gyms stay aligned with what members actually want and not what owners think they want. You know, you actually need to get that feedback from them. And so there's so many different conversations that can be had throughout the course of a member's time in the gym. And I remember that when I used to run clubs, there were always those like 5 or 10 members that everybody knows, right? That they're in the gym every single day or multiple times a week. They're the ones that just kind of come and they hang out and they're there for the community and they'll give you feedback. They always are the ones that come up and talk to them. They you know their first name, you know a lot about their family and stuff like that. But all the trainers, all the instructors, all the coaches within the facility as well are having conversations with their members as well. So it's a unique time to be able to get feedback that you can use, ask what you need to know, adapt it, and then go ahead and implement it and show the members that you listened. By doing so, that's going to build trust and it's really going to drive retention.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I have 2 questions that I'm trying to formulate in my head as you're going through this. My brain is running and this is good for the podcast. I think the first one that I want to kind of go is with starting at the top in terms of who is setting the culture and how to learn more about these. I remember when I worked for a relatively big gym chain in California, and I remember I had to do a project. This is when I was in my undergraduate degree, and I had to do a project where I had to interview someone within a facility. I asked the GM of the club, hey, can I get 30 minutes of your time? And I just need to interview, ask all these questions. And he talked about his, I think he called it every hour on the hour, he was walking around the gym just to get the temperature of the club. And I kind of got from him that he's trying to set the tempo of the club and to set the culture of the club and making sure that he's making contact with people throughout that point. How do GMs get more insight into what's working? I think that's a good question to ask here, because I think that things obviously change within the fitness industry. We both run education companies. We're trying to provide insight to different professionals within the industry. How can GMs gain insight into what should be working, what should I be trying so that my club can improve?
Yeah, so I'll look at it from an external and internal perspective. When you look internally, the easiest thing to do, and we used to do this all the time, is we used to have every quarter all staff meetings. Every single one of my department heads, all my trainers, my Pilates instructors, my front desk, it would be a required all staff meeting. We would bring in pizza, bring some drinks, non-alcoholic. And we would do an all staff meeting in which every department head would have time to speak. And we would find out from those that are on, we call it the front lines, the front desk people, the trainers that are having conversations with people to provide their feedback. Because myself as the GM or my department heads, they only see a certain perspective. They only can see kind of what's in front of them. And there's so tunnel vision sometimes that we don't always know what's going on. So from an internal perspective, getting the feedback from others was huge and key. And we love doing these all staff meetings because we learn so much. From an external perspective, I think the biggest thing that you can do is just understand what your competitors are doing, understand a competitor analysis, understand really what the market is doing so you have a better understanding of what could work for you. It's not easy, but at the same time, understanding who your competitors are, what they're doing, and being able to figure out what they're doing and do it better, I think is always gonna make a lot of sense.
Agree. Now, second part that was kind of coming through my head as we were going through all these different parts of experience and tailoring it to a potential new member. Now, this is something that is potentially loaded as we keep coming to here with group fitness and what potential members are looking for. If you have somebody that is interested in a gym membership, they're coming to your gym and you're thinking, oh, wow, this person, they might be interested in group fitness or they might be into a different item. How can a membership advisor kind of take them through the gym and find out what is they're looking for and how their gym suits them? Is it continual training that they should be going through? Is it asking them questions? I'm just trying to figure out in my head how that experience should be tailored for that individual that's walking in to hopefully get them signed up and that they are checking in continually, then utilizing the gym.
Yeah. So a lot of that will come down to sales training, but when it comes down to it, one of the biggest things that we always used to preach for our sales reps was when somebody comes in, they're not coming in because they want to lose weight. Sure, they might say that. But what you have to do, we used to call it uncovering the emotional hot button. What is the real reason behind them walking into the studio or walking into the gym? Is it because they just went to the doctor and the doctor told them that they have high blood pressure or high cholesterol and they, need to get to the gym and work out to bring that down in combination with having a better diet? Is it because their daughter is getting married in 6 months and they want to lose weight to be able to, be more presentable walking them down the aisle or something like that? Like, what is that emotional reason that they decided to make a change in their life and focusing on that? Once you can uncover that, then you've got a laundry list of things that you can tie in and personalize the experience for them, whether it's, group fitness, whether it's personal training. It doesn't matter. But the real key is to focus on the benefit that they would get from joining, not the features, right? A lot of times people get, and this is hard for any business, not just a studio, gym, or health club. You focus on the features, like, oh, we've got personal training and we've got group fitness classes and we've got a spa and we've got, childcare and all that. And it's like, okay, great. So does that guy, you know what I mean? Across the street. So why? If you focus on the benefit that you receive from those features, that is what's going to make a difference. So, okay, you said you were interested in group fitness classes. Great. It's a perfect way for you to get community, to have a tailored workout where it doesn't matter where your level of expertise is. You get the ability to meet new people and have a variety of different classes that you can pick and choose from. So it works into your schedule, right? And so identifying exactly what that is by working out with a trainer, whether you do one-on-one or 30 minutes or 45 minutes, you're going to start feeling better, sleeping better, possibly eating better to make your life feel more fulfilling so that you can, do what you want to do, walk your daughter down the aisle in 6 months. So you need to refine it based on what the benefits are that they're going to get from whatever the features are. And then again, of course, uncover that emotional hot button too, and whatever it is that brought them in.
I like it. I like it. Let's continue talking about community here within the gym. I remember when I worked for bigger box gyms that community events started to become more of a bigger thing. How can we get people coming back to the gym to not work out? And I will admit it that I would sometimes scratch my head and be like, are people really going to come for this? I wouldn't know. And even towing the line of how do you promote health when you are potentially serving alcohol at these events, or are you going to be having healthier food options? I feel like there's a lot of questions you got to be asking when you're doing these types of events. What are some effective ones that you've heard about, seen that are being implemented?
I'll tell you some of them that I ran. So first and foremost, if you run a community event inside your club, do not serve hot food. That is one of the biggest things that you should never do because it stinks up the entire gym. It's the truth. Don't serve hot food. Or if you do, serve it somewhere where it's completely out of reach where people can't. Because if you got hot food, it's going to smell everything. People don't want that when they're on a treadmill or something like that.
No,
so
not at all.
People sometimes don't realize that.
Yeah.
So a variety of things you can do. We used to run programs at my gym that were very successful. I'll give people a couple examples. One was a program called Lose to Win, where people would sign up over the summer and it was tracked. You would have a certain number of workouts to do, certain number of checkouts to do. And basically the person that lost the most, and this one was weight, and it was tracked via back in this time, Google spreadsheets and stuff, but you can use apps and stuff, would win a prize or would be entered into a raffle to win certain things, whether it's at the studio or the gym, whether it be, a massage or a 3-pack of personal training or stuff like that, which was a unique one. One of my favorites was a fitness challenge. We called it, it was a fitness study. And the way it worked was, it was a huge fitness study that we would call it. The marketing for it was we'd go out into the community. And now, granted, when I was a GM, I ran health clubs in Chicago, like downtown Chicago, in the Old Town neighborhood and in the Lakeview neighborhood. So massive communities. The gyms that I was running were 50,000 square feet, so not small. Wow. And, an affluent area on the north side of Chicago, if anybody knows, kind of by Wrigley. And so we would run this fitness study and it would be tailored to people that weren't active. And so the way it worked was it was a 4 or 6 week program. We're talking 15 years ago, so it's been a while. But I remember them because they worked so well. And so the fitness study invited members of the community in who weren't already active or a member of the health club, and they got assigned to a trainer. Now, you would come for a big kickoff party, and what it would be is basically a study that would allow them to work out at the club. They would have a unique t-shirt if they wanted to wear it. We would track their check-ins, and they would have a kind of a structured workout plan for them. But after the kickoff party, they would meet with a trainer and they would do kind of like a baseline test. So they would do a push-up test, a sit-up test, a walk or run, 1 mile test, and a variety of these baseline tests that you would track their heart rate and all these different things, and an emotional questionnaire. How are you feeling now? What do you want to get out of this fitness study? And then they would go through the program where they would meet with a trainer certain times a week. They would be able to take group exercise classes. We would track their progress. Nothing nutrition element, although you can bring in a nutritionist and have them meet with the nutritionist as part of the program as well. This would cost them nothing. Like this was free to bring people in, and they had full access. And we would always encourage the front desk and the trainers to, check in on them, see how they're doing, tell them how great they're doing. As we talked about at the beginning, there was always tools to reach out to them to ensure that they're supported throughout the entire fitness study. And then at the end of the 4 or the 6 weeks, I can't remember, you would do that baseline test again. You do the run walk, you do the push-up test, the sit-up test, and see what progress they've made. You do the emotional questionnaire to see how they're feeling now. And then ultimately the goal was to have them sign up for the club at the end of the day. But it was such a hit that we would run it every single year, and we'd get 100 people to come in from, and, I say 100, that's a lot of people from a community.
Yeah.
And all those 100, we would typically see, 50 to 60% stay on and join as members, which was
Wow.
huge. It was a really cool fitness challenge to do. But aside from things like that, member appreciation events, themed workouts, one of the fun ones we used to do was trainer versus client competitions. Of course, the client would have, some perks for them. So it wasn't like, oh, it's how many pull-ups can you do? And it's like, well, of course, the trainer more than likely can do a lot more. So we would have those fun competitions. You can tie in variety of different charity tie-ins, work out for a cause, unite your community around something bigger than themselves. But really the key is the events need to mix fun, fitness, food. Those are always a win. And really the deeper connection outside the workout, the stronger the loyalty is going to be inside the gym.
Yeah. Thinking about your fitness study there, I think that people being able to have some motivation and being able to see the measuring from the beginning to the end, I mean, that's a huge win for them, that they're actually saying, oh, wow, results happening. I do want to continue with it. And sometimes that's all they need just to get going and continue with it. That if I just keep on this track, that wasn't that as bad as I thought it was going to be. Hopefully those are eye-opening situations for them. So I can definitely see that.
What do they say? How long does it take to build a habit? 6 weeks or something like that? And so, that's part of it is it's changing the lifestyle, and you have to be supported throughout that entire process too. So it's not easy to do. Agree.
We're going to move to some quick hits here. And with these, I'm going to read you a statement and you give me an initial true, false reaction to it. Right. Nothing too big. And you could take it wherever you want. Okay, Josh? Okay. So first one here. Online marketing tactics work best for attracting new members.
Good one. True, but only when paired with a strong landing page and a clear low barrier offer. So lead gen is easy, right? But when you talk about conversions require clarity and trust. My dad, I love this saying when it comes to marketing. It says, marketing makes the phone ring, but sales answers it. So when you focus on marketing tactics, yes, absolutely. They are best. You need people to know who you are, what you're about. You need to get the word out there, but you need to make sure it's done incredibly well. So for example, Tyler, we were talking about our Succeed virtual conference, and our conference, it's 6 days, but the first 3 days are completely free. There's no loopholes you have to jump through. There's no credit card you have to put in, anything like that. It's literally free. And we do that because it's lead generation. It's a massive lead magnet to get people into our ecosystem, to understand the education we provide is high quality. We put some of our best speakers, certifying organizations, TRX, big name companies on those first 3 days, the keynotes around those first 3 days, the workshops around those first 3 days. So people understand that we're serious about education, serious about their success. So I definitely say true, but you have to have, the back end part of that worked out as well.
I agree. Next one here. Creating a sense of community is crucial for member satisfaction.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Fitness is emotional, and community keeps people coming even when motivation fades. We talked about that earlier. Yeah. And no matter what, community is going to be the backbone, the lifeblood of your organization, no matter what. Fitness is an emotional thing. I remember hearing this, and I think it's true, but maybe don't quote me, even though I'm going to say it. But aside from going to work, and aside from being at home, the next place that most people frequent is a health club or a studio or a gym. Because if you think about it, you're not going to the same restaurant 3 times a week, 4 or 5 times a week. But a health club where you go to get your fitness is where people frequent multiple times during the course of a week. And so whether they're going to play basketball or pickleball, my wife and I have a family membership to the YMCA here in Minneapolis. And I am fortunate because I work from home and I can go work out in the middle of the day. And, the demographics are totally different than it is in the evening. And the community aspect is through the roof. There's people playing pickleball on the basketball courts. There are group exercise classes for a certain demographic. So people are coming, yes, to work out, but because fitness is emotional, and that sense of community where people know they can come and have those conversations and have a cup of coffee and see the people that they know is a huge component in building community and how crucial it is for member satisfaction and retention.
Agree on many different levels with that one. Great response there. Last one here. Referral programs remain valuable avenues for attracting new members.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there's a statistic that says, that the data, most people will join or go to a restaurant or decide to take an action on something based off of referrals. I mean, whether they go on Google or OpenTable, or maybe OpenTable's not a good one, Yelp or something like that. It's still one of the top performing acquisition channels when paired with easy sharing tools and meaningful rewards. So if your members love you, they're going to bring others, right? If you make it easy. So, a Bring a Buddy month is a great opportunity for people to bring in their friends and family days, things like that. But referral programs are always going to be an essential component of success. And you want to, but it's also making sure you ask for referrals at the right time. So this is something a lot of people get wrong. The best time to ask for a referral is when your clients or your members are in a heightened emotional state. And what I mean is they've hit a goal or they've hit a personal record with something. That would be the great time, not be like, hey, great job with this. By the way, do you want to bring in your friend or so-and-so? You have to do it at the right time and ask in the appropriate way. But referral programs are key. We actually build in referral programs to our virtual conferences. It's all going back to technology, the first question we talked about, it's all built in, where somebody can refer their friends and they get a personalized email from that friend saying, hey, I just signed up for the Succeed virtual conference. It's happening these dates. Here's the link to check it out. Can't wait to see you there. And it's totally built into everything we do. And so we always get a ton of referrals that way when it comes, when we analyze the numbers at the end of the day. But yeah, referral programs are huge. People want to share their wins.
Yeah. I can, to your point here, I don't know how I remember this story, but I remember when I was a younger fitness enthusiast, before I was even in the fitness industry, I was leaving a gym, a popular gym in the area that I lived in and grew up, and random individual working there yells at me, hey, do you have 5 friends that you want to sign up or referrals? And now after that, I remember I would try to avoid the front desk when I was leaving. How can I sneak out with them trying to pester me for emails or phone numbers?
That was a tactic that sales reps used to use at the gyms I was at, where when somebody would sign up for the gym, that was a tactic. And it's like, hey, great, welcome to the gym. By the way, do you have 3 other friends of yours that you think might be interested in signing up? Let me know. And
timing.
Name, number, phone number, or email, excuse me. And I guess you could call that a heightened emotional state, but maybe it's more. It's like, oh, I just dropped a few $100s on this with my initiation fee and my first month, last month dues. And oh my gosh, you're bringing back memories. But yeah, all that stuff.
Going off topic with the joke there, just to get us to our podcast takeaways and tailoring this to our conversation. I think that is always important here, and making sure that get something from your background. And I was trying to think which one was going to be the best as we were going through this. So the podcast takeaways that come from, I was watching this documentary, I think it was on Amazon Prime, and it was this individual that did 50 different Ironman distances in 50 different states. I believe the documentary is called Iron Cowboy. And I tell that story because there's always somebody that hears this podcast whenever I tell the full story, and they'll get a message either on Instagram or a text message from somebody. Tyler, was that Iron Cowboy on Amazon Prime? And I would say, yes, it was. And on Twitter, before it was called X, this individual was asked, what was 3 myths about Ironman training? So I was like, oh, that's a good question. How can I use that in the podcast? So Josh, what are 3 myths about client retention?
One of the biggest things to do, and I don't know if it's a myth, but one of the things that I always tell people is when it comes to client retention and new client acquisition as well, you're always on stage, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. And think about that. So when it comes to client retention, when you are training someone, and whether it's 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning, people are always watching you. You're always on stage. So if you're sitting there with a Starbucks coffee on a weight bench and pointing at your client to do a certain exercise, a lot of people might think that doesn't impact them. So the myth is, oh, it doesn't matter if, I'm tired. No, you got to bring your A game. You're always on stage. We're always watching you. You've got possibly personal trainer on the back of your t-shirt. You're always being watched. So to think that you're not is a myth in and of itself. You're always being watched. People are seeing how you train, because at some point in time, they might want to walk up to you and be like, hey, I'm interested in your services. I see your picture up on the wall. I see your certifications and I want to take advantage. So
it's a good one.
That is one myth. When it comes to client retention, the other thing I would say a myth is that the experience that the member has in the gym is where things stop, and that's not true. We know that's not true. We've talked a lot about that, the 5 minutes of kindness. I think that the experience that the member has when they've left the club is even more important. Tyler, one thing we didn't talk about, trends that are happening in the industry right now, and recovery is a big one. Longevity is a big one. It's not so much about coming in and wanting to get fit and big and stuff like that, but it's making sure that you live a long, active, and healthy lifestyle from the recovery and the longevity side. So making sure that you check in on your members and your clients is incredibly important to make sure that they're doing okay. If you put them through a tough workout or you realize they're probably going to be sore the next day, providing them that experience once they leave the gym is incredibly important. So when you talk member retention, the myth is that it ends when they're in the gym. No, it doesn't. It continues until you see them at their next, possible.
I like that.
Session, excuse me. And then the third one, when it comes to member retention, it's a little plug for us, but the myth is that I don't need business skills when it comes to being a successful trainer. And you absolutely do. And I remember when I was a GM, I'll tell you a very short story because I know we're short on time. But when it comes down to it, would have GM meetings. So there was about 7 or 8 clubs. I think now there's like 10 or 12 of these clubs in Chicago. They're fitness formula clubs. And our CEO looked at all the bottom lines and is like, here's what we're going to do. We need to grow our personal training departments. So we are going to do a massive hiring spree. And we are going to bring in all these trainers. And I think we worked with the American Council on Exercise and a variety of other certifying organizations to bring in newly certified trainers into the gyms. And I remember sitting with my fitness director. They would go through an onboarding at the corporate office where they would go through various elements of how the gym works and what's expected and a little bit of sales training. But I remember sitting with my fitness director. They're like, all right, here comes a new batch, every month. And you could look and you could just tell which ones were like a deer in headlights. They newly certified, could be the best personal trainer in the world when it comes to technique. But when it came to actually having a conversation, and you can't coach personality, when it comes to being able to close a client, when you're sitting in an assessment room or doing an intake form and you need, or, maybe they were paired with a trainer, a new client was paired with a trainer because they got a few free sessions when they joined the club, right? At the end of those free sessions, how do you convert them into a paying member through a program or a client session? And so the business skills, how you communicate with your clients during the session, how you communicate with your clients after the session, as we just talked about, how you sell your services, how you carry yourself, you need business skills. So for trainers to think, oh, I can just go get another fitness certification, that's great. But Tyler, the data shows that almost 80% of all personal trainers leave the industry within 2 years.
Yep. That's
not because you have a variety of different fitness certifications. It's because you need to understand that you are your own business and you 100%. Need to run fitness skills parallel with that of business skills. And ultimately that is what we do. So I guess that's what I'll end it on.
I dig it.
But I like it. That I don't need business skills, and you absolutely do. You don't need business skills in the sense of like, oh, I'm going to start my own studio one day. You need business skills to make sure that you earn what you want to earn and you keep your clients coming back.
100%. And a little story for me to tag on to this about always being on. And this is more of a lesson from it that I remember one time when I was working at this big gym chain and I was standing at the front desk chatting with the front desk representatives, and one of them was sitting on top of the desk helping check in members. And this gym that I worked at, the corporate offices were right across the street. So the people that worked at the corporate office would come over after a hard day's work and work out, and you never know who comes in. And the CEO of this gym chain walks in, and I remember he looks right at the individual that's sitting at the desk and he hands him his pass, checks him in. You see the name of the CEO, and all of a sudden that person just froze cold right there, not knowing what to do, and immediately pops down. And I don't know if this person was reprimanded, but you never know who's watching, who's going to be coming in. So be on. That is my part of that story. Josh, before we wrap up here, can you talk about any upcoming events, which there are a few coming up that I know that I'm excited for, how people can find FBA on social media and the website?
Absolutely. So yeah, we've got our August Succeed virtual conference happening August 13th to 18th, all online, all virtual, 6 days, almost 100 different sessions, workshops, keynotes, continuing education credits, units. All that can be found online. Just go to fbasucceed.com. If you want to learn more about our fitness certification, as I mentioned before, that talks all about those in-between session skills, the selling, the, communication stuff. That can be found on fbafitness.com. And all of our social media handles can be found on either one of those websites. So that's probably the best place to go. It's just to the website. It explains everything.
Great. And those will be in the description for our listeners or people that are watching this on YouTube. Thank you very much for coming on, talking about stuff that it was a very eye-opening conversation for me as well. So thank you for all of that, Josh.
No, my pleasure, Tyler. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.